Thank you all for being here. I'm kind of blown away by how many people have appeared. We had this idea sometime in the summer. Our legislative strategy team said, let's have a conference. And I thought, wait, you don't pull a conference together in a period of a few months. And yet, Jim Allen, our conference coordinator, found a hotel that had space for us. And we've had a team working very, very fast. And we have, I believe, 225 people here today. I was actually asking around about when, Kathy, you might be able to help us, the largest citizen activist redistricting conference in history. I believe this might be it. So yes. As I often say when I do presentations, if anybody knows that I'm wrong and can show me that, I would love to know. So as far as I know, this is the largest. So thank you for being here. If anyone had suggested a year ago that we would hold a can you all hear me? Is this working? Excellent. If anybody had suggested a year ago that we would hold a conference on redistricting and 200 people would show up, I would have laughed. It did not seem like we would, getting 60 people in a room to talk about this seemed like a major feat. But as many of you know, in January, when we held a meeting in Philly, almost 900 people showed up, and that's when we knew something has changed in Pennsylvania. And what has changed in Pennsylvania is citizens are concerned about the state of our democracy. They want to understand what's happening, and they want to see things change. We all know that confidence in democracy is at a historic low. A recent study reported that just 3 out of 10 millennial males is confident or strongly confident in the future of American democracy. That number shrinks to 2 out of 10 millennial women and 1 out of 10 millennials of color. That's, to me, frightening. To think that the level of confidence among the next generation is so very low. Among all of us, only 20% of all Americans today say they can trust the government in Washington to do what is right. Just about always 4%. Most of the time, 16%. I don't know what the statistics would be here in Pennsylvania. I have a feeling they might be lower, given how many incarcerations and how many cases we've had about corruption among our leaders in recent years. We feel our legislators are acting on their own behalf and not ours, and we feel our legislators are not listening to us, and for good reason. They are not listening to us. In a 2014 study, researchers examined congressional action on almost 2,000 policy issues. They're finding the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact on public policy. Let me read that again, because you need to understand these words, and these are the words that need to be motivating us as we act. The preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. We're seeing that playing out in many ways in DC. We're seeing that playing out in many ways in Harrisburg. What the citizens care about, what the citizens want, what's good for the populace is not of interest to those who are in charge of setting the legislative agenda. Right now in Pennsylvania, we see a legislature unable to pass a balanced budget, unable to enact policy solutions to important economic and social challenges, and unwilling to allow discussion or votes on bills supported by a majority of Pennsylvanians. We believe there are structural reasons for unresponsive government and structural changes that would return power to our citizens in the way our founders intended. Last month, the Harvard Business School released an important report by Catherine Gale and Michael Porter titled, "Why Competition in the Politics Industry is Failing America, a Strategy for Reinvigorating Our Democracy." They describe a dysfunction in our legislatures. They describe the partisan gridlock, the failure to enact good solutions, and according to their analysis, the real problem is our political system is no longer designed to serve the public interest and has been slowly reconfigured to benefit the private interests of gain-seeking organizations, our major political parties, and their industry allies. They describe the duopoly, which is the two parties which have configured the rules of elections, but the rules of the legislative process to serve themselves rather than us. According to them, it's important to recognize that much of what constitutes today's political system has no basis in our constitutions. As our systems evolve, the parties and the larger political industrial complex that surrounds them established and optimized a set of rules and practices that enhanced their power and diminished our democracy. These changes, often created behind closed doors and largely invisible to the average citizen, continue to take their toll at both the federal and the state levels. So Porter and Gale describe a long list of possible reforms, and many of you have discussed those or raised those at the ends of some of our informational meetings: ranked choice voting, open primaries, same-day voter registration, national primary day, campaign finance reform. There are many things we could do to make our democracy work better. The challenge is to identify key reforms at the intersection of powerful and achievable. And Catherine Gale and Michael Porter have a graph where they show the Venn diagram, powerful and achievable, and they say there's only a narrow slice there that will do both, that are powerful and achievable. And that's what we are here to do, to work on what we believe is a powerful and achievable reform here in Pennsylvania. So we have some wonderful experts here to share with us. We have some of our phenomenal Fair Districts folks here to share with us. The team that we've assembled in just the last really 8 months, I'm daily just overwhelmed with thankfulness, amazement. If you walk around, you will see evidence of phenomenal creativity, industry, persistence, and just a few announcements before we go further. One is we have a room over here in this space where some of our local groups have set up displays of things that they've used at fairs or at events. So if you are a volunteer and want some phenomenal ideas, go and look. If you're just here to learn more, please go and look. There's some great stuff in there. We've got some folks working on some projects. You'll see those cycle through in some of our announcement slides. But we have folks set up in there to tell you some more or information back there. So there's a lot of material. There's also a lot of printed material. Some of it's out there, but at the end of the day, we want all of our printed material to go home with people. So if you're a local group leader, especially those in places where you have small groups and you can't order in bulk, please take material as you go. And we don't want to take anything home with us. We have lots and lots and lots of flyers, postcards, any kind of material you can think of. The material is all free. The t-shirts and the swag, the bumper stickers and pins, those are for a small, pretty much near cost fee. But the printed material is all free. Which brings me to one other announcement or clarification I want to make. One of the things that is said about us is we're funded by George Soros. And I think, please, yes, write us a check. Do it today. We are not funded by George Soros. We are an all-volunteer organization. I am a volunteer. All of our leadership team is volunteer. We're all volunteers. We have a few people who are contract consultants or do contract jobs for us on a small scale, just a few things that we just need to get done that we haven't been able to get done in other ways. But most of our work is done by volunteers. And how is it funded? So when we started in January 2016, 2 or 3, I believe it was 3 of our initial endorsing organizations gave us $500 in seed money. That's how we got started. And then we set up an online donation page. And our income all last year completely was through online donations, through that online donation page. Since then, this year, we've had one foundation grant from the Pittsburgh Foundation for $500. We've had one personal, thank you Pittsburgh Foundation, and Khalifa Lee, who will be here today, he helped arrange that. He's part of our team. We've had a grant from a personal foundation from some wonderful supporters who are in the room for $10,000. Thank you very much. We've had a couple other generous project grants from folks who wanted to see some of our filming put together and a couple other things. So we've had some generous grants in the several $1,000s range from some individuals who know and love and support us. Everything else is small dollar donations that have come over our website or checks to the League of Women Voters office. The average contribution is $35. So we are funding this event. All of the printing that we do, all of that is done with your donations, small dollar donations. Every $35 is huge. We have probably about 50 people who have set up online recurring donations. So every month we get about $1,000 from online recurring donations. So if that's of interest to you, go on our website and there's a link to donate. You can go there and you can set up a small online recurring donation, and that's how we're funded. So if anybody says they're funded with outside money, you can say absolutely not. Most of our money comes from small dollar donations in the $35 range. That's where our money comes from.